Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, and we battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time, according to two film geeks from Wiltshire, England. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a review and subscribe. Hello, podsters. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. As ever, thank you for downloading it as well. I should really say that more often. Thank you very much. It really is nice to see the stats go up. This week, as Reminiscence is out on the big screens around the world, and one of the stars of that film is the Australian legend that is Hugh Jackman. We'll be picking our favourite Hugh Jackman films for this week, and as ever I'm joined by the Mr. Encyclopedia Man that is Mr. Boaz Dix. How are you, sir?
I am good, sir. Very well.
Good, sir. What is your pick for this week, sir?
Oh, yes. My pick is Eddie the Eagle.
Nice.
Yes, nice.
So why did you pick this one?
Well, you know, I've seen it before. And I thought it was pretty heartwarming. So.
Surprising choice.
Yes. Well, I mean, I was originally going to go for the Prestige before you picked the Prestige. So, you know.
Okay.
You nicked my pick. And then I was kind of I was just sort of scrambling, like, what else have I seen that's pretty good. But I watched Eddie the Eagle fairly recently, and I don't know, I just quite liked it. I thought it's, I like underdog stories, sports stories.
Yeah, feel-good films.
Yeah, feel-good films.
I like to call them.
And and this was quite nice.
Cool. Yeah, I really liked it as well. I think this is kind of the type of film that only this country could make, and I'll go into that further later, but it's such an inspiring story, and it's really funny as well. I think Taron Egerton and Hugh Jackman are hilarious in this film as well.
Yeah.
So you could just call it a straight-out comedy, to be honest,
It is genuinely quite funny. And they have pretty good chemistry together.
So what happens in Eddie the Eagle? So
Eddie the Eagle is a telling of a real-life event, so it's a biopic or whatever, about, Eddie.
Eddie Edwards.
Eddie Edwards, that's the one. This British lad who always wanted to be an Olympian, even though he wasn't very, physically fit, and who decided to be a ski jumper, Olympic ski jumper, quite late in his life. I think when he's asking for tips, the guy asks him how old you are, and he's like, I'm 22. So he's like, and he goes like, we start when we're 6 years old. There's no way in hell you're going to be an Olympic ski jumper. But he trains very hard. He gets a coach, reluctantly, who's Hugh Jackman, who works at this kind of lodge for ski jumpers. He kind of manages to convince him, to help him out. But he used to be an Olympic ski jumper, like Hugh Jackman's character. So he trains him for, a year or so, and then he goes to the Olympics and becomes universally adored. So
directing then. I haven't got too many notes for directing, if I'm honest. Mm-hmm. This is directed by Dexter Fletcher, our second Dexter Fletcher film, the other one being Rocket Man in our musicals episode. I would say Rocket Man's probably a lot better film than this, certainly with directing. There's some nice touches though. I mean, the pratfall montage where Eddie breaks a load of his glasses is quite funny near the start.
Yeah.
My favourite one was when he trips up on the hurdles on the last one. I was like, he could have made it.
Yeah.
But it's quite funny. I do like the entrance to Hugh Jackman's character of Bronson Perry. You have a brilliant crash landing montage from Eddie on just the 40 meter. I bet the stunt guy really loved doing those as well. Lol. And then Bronson gets out of the truck thing. His legs land into shot, and he walks towards Eddie, and the camera kind of tilts up to reveal Bronson looking at Eddie in pain, with a "what the hell are you doing" look on his face while swigging his jacket, his whiskey, which is quite a cool entrance, I thought.
Yeah, definitely, really badass. Like, do you know what I'm going to say? When Hugh Jackman does his jump to, like, you know, he's basically doing it in his shirt and stuff. He's drunk as hell, and he does the 90 meters, and he's smoking a cigarette. I thought that was fairly awesome.
That's my favourite shot.
Yeah, I think that's my favourite shot. I think that kind of sticks out. Other directorial moments, I kind of like the build-up of, you know, especially like the close-up of Hugh Jackman's face when he's trying to explain, and then the pull-out when he's trying to explain how, you know, you do a jump and it should
jump.
Yeah. And do you know what I mean? He's trying to train him, and I like that because he's comparing it to sex. So I think that's a great script scene.
Bo Derek.
Yeah, Bo Derek. But I think it's shot really well, where it's just like it's fucking hilarious. Like he's like building up, you know, camera out. And he's like Bo Derek. Yeah, that was quite funny. Oh, and you know, I like when he finally does succeed on the jump. That was a great scene, you know, and I know it's one of those things. It's kind of by the books, and you know, they've done it in like Cool Runnings and what have you. But there's so much suspense that he could fail, and just I love the shots of everyone. It's like even the people that don't like him, his detractors, people that have given him shit, just really like, holy shit, please do it, you know. And he just barely does it.
I didn't write this down, but I do feel like there's possibly a slight kind of visual change a little bit with the directing of that final jump. The scale does feel a lot bigger, like with the camera work as well. There's a lot longer lenses, I feel. Like, you know, further out, there's a bit more depth of field, I think. It definitely do get a sense of this final jump is a lot more epic.
Definitely.
Than the other jumps he's had.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing too spectacular, really.
Yeah.
From Dexter Fletcher, I don't think.
I think, if you're talking about, like, you know, technical camera work, you know, no, there isn't, like, there aren't that many flares where you're, like, I don't know, that really stick in your mind.
The only thing I would say about my favourite shot, I love the fact that it's all done in, like, you know, slow motion when Bronson goes down the 90 meter with just normal clothes, you know. You know, it goes right into close up, then, you know, chucks the cigarette away, the camera, like, swings to the side, pulls out, and it's all done with Thin Lizzy playing in the background, which is cool. Yeah, it's just a great, ridiculous moment, cool to watch.
Yeah, I like the soundtrack. I think that's probably one thing I'll give the choices of songs.
Yeah.
You know, they're all classics, and I think they utilize pretty well.
Certainly with the comedy as well. I think you definitely have to have a lot of skill as a director to make the comedy work, and not just rely on the script and the actors to do it. There's one particular scene where, you know, Taron, like, walks into a steam room with a load of Norwegian jumpers, all completely naked.
That was fun.
It's like, hi guys, I'm Eddie Edwards. I'm Great Britain. Oh God, nude. Yeah, so that's one of my favourite lines, definitely.
Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah, the whole way that was just set up in just that very natural wide shot, and you can, you know, obviously everything's all covered up, obviously, otherwise it'd be just like, what the hell? But, you know, yeah, it's a nice mise en scène, if you will, of naked people. Not sure I would ever say that.
Me schlong sen. I knew I could fit a pun in there somewhere.
Oh dear. Right. Directing score for me, I think.
Score for that joke, 9 out of 10.
Yeah. Directing score for me, I'll go like 7.4.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fair. I was going to do something more like 7.1, but you basically in the same ballpark that I was thinking.
All right, screenplay then. Again, you know, this script is really funny, and what I was alluding to in the introduction when we were talking about our first thoughts about it is that, you know, I think only a British film would decide to make a film about a person who was shit at sport. You know, a person who was famous for coming last.
Yeah.
You know, only this country would do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just make it really heartwarming and just really inspirational.
Oh, damn,
you know?
damn right.
Only a British filmmaker.
Yeah. This is said a lot about, like, the British people, but it's 100% true if anybody's not from England hearing this. But we do love the underdog, the person that, you know, is not qualified, should have no right doing it, but is trying. You know, we don't give a shit, you know. And it's kind of funny because during the film, this was they have the same reaction to him, the British public in the film, and then in real life. And then when you're watching the film in real life, of just, he's getting so much attention And I just thought there was this funny little scene where everybody's crowding up to his table, giving him interviews. You know, you have that montage of his interviews. And his other teammates, like, nobody's bloody talking to them. Or their interview room, people are just leaving.
Because they're really good. We don't like them.
But it's like... but I think it's just the British behaviour of, like, oh, bless his heart, he's trying.
Yeah.
And I mean, the fact that he had the balls to do the 90-metre, he had the British record. He had the British record. Because nobody did it. You know, that's brilliant. Even though he had a crap, distance, the fact that he was the only Brit to do it, I mean, that's balls.
I like the joke where Eddie and Bronson are in the bar and the Norwegians are taking the piss a bit, and Bronson's having a beer and Eddie's having a glass of milk. And Bronson's like, hold these, and he gives him his watch, and you're like, oh, Bronson's gonna fuck him up. But he misses his punch wildly, and the Norwegian coach just takes him out in one punch.
Yeah, I like that.
And it was just a nice joke of just messing with your expectations, you know.
I like the line is like, my jumpers do not fight. I do. And just one punch knocks him out. And then I love, Hugh Jackman wakes up outside the bar. He's like, did I win? It's like, not exactly. That was a great scene.
There's an interesting scene in the script which makes this film fairly unique compared to other sports films, where like Eddie discovers that he's, qualified for the Olympics with his practice jump, and he really wants to, go to the Olympics, but Bronson says that he should wait like 4 years to train properly and not just be part of it, but be a contender. And Bronson says, don't make this your moment, please. You'll be a fool. They'll make a fool of you. And Eddie says, I'd rather be a sober fool than a drunken coward. And it's like Bronson kind of wants to use him to right his own wrongs in his past, and wants to protect Eddie from embarrassment as well. But for Eddie, he doesn't care about winning or what anybody thinks of him. He just wants to follow his dreams. Which is a quality, you can root for in a character like this. And, I just love that this story in a sports film where the goal in it at the end is not about winning at all. It's just, taking part, which is obviously what the Olympics are about. But you don't get that very often in sports films, I don't think.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, it is kind of an interesting hero's journey, because he's not, aiming to be the best. He's just always wanted to, jump in the Olympics. That's just what he wanted to do. And he doesn't really, I wouldn't say he doesn't really like care at all. He wants to do his best, like his physical best.
Yeah.
And I like that conversation he has with the guy that does the 90 meters, because at the end is like you have
the flying fin, Matty.
They're talking about jumping, but he's treating him as an equal.
Yeah.
And I love how he's like, you see, it doesn't really matter. We're not in competition. Loser, winner, it doesn't matter. We are all already ahead of them.
Yeah.
But if you don't try your best, that's what will haunt you, And then, he does a jump that's like well over 112 meters. But it's still amazing that, Eddie is trying his best. He's putting his all. I think that's the most important thing. He doesn't really, mind if he doesn't win.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite moments. He's like, oh, we're both like 1 o'clock and 11 o'clock. We're both like on the same path kind of thing. Yeah. He says, you see, we are closer to each other than others. Winning, losing, all that stuff is for the little people. Men like us, we jump to free our souls. We are the only two jumpers with a chance to make history today. If we do less than our best with the whole world watching, it will kill us inside. And I love the fact that, the best jumper in the world admires Eddie the most, It's really nice touch at the end there.
Yeah. Yeah, I just like a lot of the lines that, say a lot about his spirit, his indomitable will. It's better than his actual ability. But, I like even when he finally meets up with Hugh Jackman later in the film, and he's like, you're one of the best I've ever seen. Like, it takes many guys like 6 months to try, like the 70 or whatever, and you just fucking tried it, You could have died, Yeah. I think that's brilliant. Got heart.
Yeah. And there's lots of great funny lines in this. Any tips then? Don't die. Eddie goes down the ramp thing and does a little whiny groan, and Bronson catches him, during the training thing, and says, the most shattering physical and emotional experience of your life, and that's the noise you make. It is in England, yeah. Which is brilliant.
Yeah. I think a little bit of wee came out.
Yep, that is my favourite line. Personal best, and we're a disgrace. From Thingy.
Yeah, that was funny.
During the press conference, I've decided to jump the 90 metres. Then Bronson spits out a drink all over the place. He's watching the TV.
Yeah. I got to say, one of my favourite characters is probably his mum. Or his dad. His parents are great.
Oh, right.
I think they're both on each complete extreme. I mean, who has a mum like that? She's the most supportive mum that's ever existed. Like, I'm just saying, like, whatever it takes so he can go to the Olympics. I think that's great. I like her.
I love the fact that his dad, Terry, like, comes around in the end, and unzips the jacket.
Yeah,
He's
that was
like,
good.
I'm Eddie's dad.
Yeah, that was good. I like that.
What's your favourite line then?
Bo Derek.
All right. There's another one I quite liked from just like one of the Norwegian ski jumpers, where he just says, "If I didn't jump, I would drink and have sex all the time."
That sounds like a sad life. What was another funny one where he asked his dad, because his dad's constantly trying to get him to see sense and be a plasterer like him, and he's like, "But Dad, didn't you ever have a dream?" He's like, "I did once." Well, what was it? I wanted to be a plasterer. You know, it's just like his dad's.
I was like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. His dad.
No way.
Yeah, his dad is a very
Lying to your child.
Yeah, his dad is a very low aiming man. But yeah, that makes me laugh.
I don't know. Does he want to go to the plastering Olympics or something?
Yeah, probably.
They'll probably have plastering in the Olympics at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Have you been watching any of the Olympics? I mean, some of the stuff is just like, how is this a sport? Seriously.
Yeah, not really, actually. I've kind of... Most of the Olympics have escaped my radar. Yeah. I've seen bits and pieces, but not really that much. We've won quite a few medals, right?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Quite a few golds. Done really well in the swimming. Anyway,
yeah,
back to films.
I need to, like, check out most of this. I'm a disappointment to my country. They're doing good, and I've got no fucking idea. But anyway.
Score then for screenplay for me. Yeah, I think the script's really good, to be honest, for what it is. It's really funny, it's really heartwarming, and it's fairly unique for a sports film. As I said, like, you know, a celebration of just taking part and not really caring about winning and stuff like that, and about a story of someone that came last was more famous than the person who won it.
Yeah, definitely.
Is kind of really cool, to be honest. So I'll go like 7.8, I think. How about you, sir?
Yeah.
Because I guess it is fairly formulaic in the end. But
yeah, but you know,
I think that's fine.
I think that's fine.
A massive issue with that.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I don't think it needs to like take risks. It was, and I mean, you know, it's based on a true story or whatever. But you know, it was very heartwarming. It was very cathartic. You know, I smiled at the end. You know, I mean, what more can you ask for? Yeah, I'll give it like an 8.1.
Right, acting then. I love the performance from Taron Egerton.
Taron Egerton is spot on,
I must say.
Yeah.
Again, I think there's possibly an issue with the fact that he's far too handsome to play someone like Eddie Edwards. But there we go.
I think that's always your issue with Taron Egerton. Like, in the next film he's in, should he get bottled? Will that, like, get your accolades? Like, he needs to really get his face cut the fuck out. Yeah, literally everything you say, like, you know.
I guess they don't bother doing any prosthetics, I don't think.
I mean, you know, he's got glasses. I mean, you know, so really. Glasses and freckles.
Sticks his chin out.
Yeah. Even when they have the pictures at the end, you know, he is more handsome than the real Eddie. But it's like, you know, even when we were talking about, you know, his performance as Elton John, just amazing and just completely different from this one. And what I know him best from is, you know, Kingsman, which I think is a phenomenal film, and he's so different in that. He's got quite a range. Yeah, very talented actor.
I love the performance from him when Petra, played by Iris Bourbon, catches Eddie sleeping in a storeroom cupboard, but like agrees to let him stay if Eddie works for her in the bar, and finishes by saying, "And maybe sometimes I can come and visit. Would you like that then?" And then Eddie says, I probably won't be here much, to be honest, what with all the training I mentioned, and do you have the key? I'll get it off you later. Yeah. It's just a great, like, awkward, bumbling performance from Taron, you know. Yeah. I love the moment from Taron again when he's been sitting next to Bronson waiting for him to wake up, and when he wakes up, he asks, like, how long have you been sitting there? And Eddie says, less than an hour. I landed the 40 meters. And Taron has got this ridiculous grin on his face, like it's not weird at all. It's quite funny.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, and Hugh Jackman's pretty good in this as well. Pretty suave, like neo cowboy. Cool man. One of the things I like, it's not much. It's facial acting, I suppose, but he's pretty good at that. Is when he's reading his coach's book, and what's his face is all fucked up. Taron, because he landed to the 70 and broke his leg or something. I don't know. He's a bit screwed up. He's reading his coach's book about how disappointed he was in him, and that he didn't have courage and sportsmanship and what have you. And it's not about the winning. And I just kind of like the look in Hugh Jackman's face of this guy might be the real deal. I should help him.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman certainly brings a great balance of drama and humour, and he's such a phenomenal actor.
I like Hugh Jackman necessarily when he's not talking. It's just facial acting, just how he responds to things.
Christopher Walken is in this movie,
I
which
know.
It just kind of amazes me, really.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
I mean, the little scene he has with Hugh Jackman is really lovely, where he signs the book and they have a hug. It's just really sweet, and his presence just gives the film that little extra something. You know what I mean? And I do love doing the Christopher Walken accent. Yeah, I can't do it now. I need to build up anyway. Basically, you just try and do an American accent, but with no punctuation, and that's Christopher Walken.
I'm a Christopher Walken. I'm a Walken.
That's good.
Here.
Wrong movie. That's Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, that is Dustin Hoffman. But if he was in that movie,
Midnight Cowboy.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever. Shut up. It was meant to be a play on his name, Walken, because he is Walken. My favorite Christopher Walken thing is Pulp Fiction. Your father had this watch up his ass 5 years. That's great.
Your father had this watch up his ass for years. I don't know what the quote is.
Yeah.
Just don't put punctuation in the lines, and you've got Christopher Walken.
Until he died of dysentery. Yeah. And then he gave the watch to me, and I stuffed it up my ass for 7 years. And now I give it to you. Yeah. I think we're the illegitimate children of Christopher Walken.
I may have cleaned it. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But you can have it anyway.
Yeah, I know. That's disgusting. It's such an amazing. That's a gross scene. We need to review that film one day. It's one of the best films in the world.
What?
Pulp Fiction.
We did.
Did we?
Our first episode.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit, I couldn't even remember that.
Yeah.
No. Really? Well, we have to go.
Yeah, it's criminally way down on our list.
Really?
For some reason.
Okay, we need to review it again.
Yeah.
We need to review it again. I think we were young and dumb.
Yeah, when we were starting out as podcasters. Yeah. My favourite performance is Taron Egerton.
Oh, yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I think Taron Egerton. Yeah.
So score for acting for me, I'll go 8.1, I think.
I'm not really going to sort of sell it short. I thought he does a good job. I'll go 8.9.
Right, let's add up the scores then for Eddie the Eagle. Eddie the Eagle gets a respectable 47.4. My film then is one of Christopher Nolan's best films, I would say. I think, a lot of his films are really good, and a lot of people have certainly very different rankings of his films, but certainly this one is very good. There certainly was other choices I had in line for Hugh Jackman films. I was tempted by Prisoners. That's a really good film. Very kind of morally dark. When Dune comes out, we're going to do Denis Villeneuve films, so that could come up. So I was going to I'll save that one in case someone picks that. X-Men 2, I was tempted by as well.
Yeah, that's great.
That's one of my favourite X-Men films. But obviously we've done Logan, so we kind of covered a little bit with X-Men anyway. But yeah, I kind of picked The Prestige because we haven't really had a Chris Nolan film yet on the podcast, and it would be kind of cool to talk about his work a little bit as well. So that's what I went with. So what happens in The Prestige? Well, in The Prestige, you have these two magicians who start out working together. Robert Angier, played by Hugh Jackman, and Alfred Borden, played by Christian Bale. And they're kind of two up-and-coming magicians, and they work together with Cutter, played by the brilliant Sir Michael Caine, who kind of helps them out, mentors them in kind of like Victorian England. Yeah, Michael Caine. It's a very difficult accent, that, for me. I don't know, I can never nail the Michael Caine accent.
Well, what was it? The tip I heard of, if you want to say his name in his accent, say my cocaine. My cocaine. It's kind of how he says it. Yeah.
My cocaine. That's better, yes. Yeah. Right, we're in Victorian London, and these two magicians, like, they're working together, and there's a trick on stage once where Angier's wife does a water escape trick where she's in a tank of water, and Boardman ties a rope around her wrists, and it's timed, and she escapes lots of times, but this one time Boardman does the knot differently, and she ends up being killed and drowned, and that basically splits them up, Angiers and Boardman, and they're basically working against each other. They're competing against each other to become the best magician.
And just flat out sabotaging each other.
Yeah. And Borden comes up with this new trick called the Transported Man, which is very simple, where he just goes into a cupboard and comes out in another cupboard. And Angiers is like, how the hell does he do that? And basically, Olivia and Cutter, Olivia played by Scarlett Johansson, they basically say, well, it's a double. He uses a double. And Angiers like, no, it can't be that simple. There's no way he uses a double. So Angiers goes through this obsession of trying to find out and how Borden does it. But not only that, but do it better. So he goes to America and finds Nikola Tesla to build him a machine that seemingly he thinks will basically transport him from one place to the other, a teleportation device, but it ends up duplicating himself. So So it's basically a film about Angier's obsession of trying to find out how Borden does the Transported Man, and Borden just grappling with relationships with his wife and Olivia as well. Yeah.
Also, you should kind of stress that, like, the film is non-linear, so it has two storylines going. It's got the present day and then most of the film, which is being read. But it's basically Borden is accused of his So it starts with Borden is accused of Angier's murder, and he's going to hang because of this. And it's, you get, this backstory about their feud and the reveal that he invented a teleportation. He got Nikola Tesla to make him a teleportation device, but it does create a duplicate, like at the other end, but the original is still there.
Yeah.
And he allowed the original to die so he could frame Borden and have him hang for his murder. So that was a hell of a twist. That was pretty damn cool. It was like, whoa.
Yeah. And it certainly gets very messy as you get near the end.
There's a lot of twists. It's like twist on twist. It's like, let's stack up.
Yeah.
Like 5 twists, like, towards the end. Like, holy shit, I'm twisted out. I'm in a complete knot. I don't know what the hell's going on. There's quite a lot of twists at the end.
Completely dehydrated.
Yeah.
Twisted out because you're twisted like a sponge.
Like a rag, yeah.
So what did you make of this one?
Yeah, man, I liked it. I thought it was cool.
Where does this rank on your Christopher Nolan list?
Like midway, maybe?
I would say middling as well, because the thing with Chris Nolan, like, I think this is a really good film, don't get me wrong, but visually one of his least inspired films, I would say. I think when he discovered like the IMAX camera, the film IMAX camera, like everything changed for him. He was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" So everything post, Dark Knight, I guess, was like everything was just huge. Scale with Chris Nolan is incredible.
Yeah. Then you've also got to think, he had insane budgets for that, and they were far more like grandiose in scale. How this script is shot, I mean, it's a personal rivalry between two guys, and it has magic, but it's mainly about these characters, so it's not really about some sort of giant cerebral idea. And for what it is, it's shot really well. I mean, it looks amazing. It's just, it doesn't have the crazy visual flair of the later movies, mainly because it's just not that scale of film. So if you're talking about you want a giant superhero battle or a war, I mean, it's not really that scale, but it's really good for what it is, and I think the directing is spot on.
I think if you look back on Chris Nolan's career, you're like, this like doesn't feel like a Chris Nolan film at all. To me, I think the script is just really intricate and amazing. No timey-wimey stuff. Yeah. Just some really great twists. But
yeah, definitely.
Visual-wise, it's not that inspiring, really, compared to his other work. So, directing then. One thing I noticed about the directing is that you never really get a good look at Fallon. Because I think if you do, I think audiences would be able to tell that the character is Christian Bale. And I think Nolan is very conscious of that. There's no like lingering long close-up shots to Fallon, and when there is a close-up shots of Fallon, they're like very, very short. Especially the first time you watch the film, you can't tell it's him, but the second time you watch it, you're like, you can really tell in those small glimpses that it's Bale. Yeah, and it's done so well that Nolan isn't making it obvious that he's hiding something.
And I think it's also great, on a rewatch, just because of how many twists there are, and you can sort of track it, plot it in your head. And you're like, wow, there are so many clues. That's a lot of fun. I thought it was kind of interesting that it starts with like a lot of discarded hats on the ground. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I love the reveal later of like, what the hell is actually happening? Their teleportation device. I like when he discovers that. He's like, I've wasted my money. You're not teleporting jack shit. And he walks down the path, and there's just like hundreds of hats and like a few cats as well, because he's duplicated the cat.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Actually, many of the scenes with Tesla and his country estate or whatever, they're pretty big budget, like, there's cool things like, the lights everywhere that he's generating electricity just from the earth.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
I like that. I like the decision to cast Hugh Jackman's double as Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
This out-of-work English actor. When you're watching it, it doesn't feel right because they just cast Hugh Jackman for a character that's supposed to look very similar to him. Yeah, they just cast the same guy. You're like, they should have cast an actor that just looks like Hugh a little bit. Yeah. But I think the film is just telling you secretly that this is the only way the transported man can work. Yeah. This is the only way Borden is doing this, people. Yeah. He's a twin. Yeah. I think the film is basically just secretly just telling you this is the only way.
Yeah. Well, I think it kind of does it fairly early on because, where they even have how you teleport a little bird. And it's like you kill one bird. Obviously he didn't kill his twin, but, Hugh Jackman was killing his clones.
Yeah. I didn't see that, yeah.
But basically, the only way you can teleport them is two little birds. There's a bird here and there's a bird here. You're not... And he just does that trick, larger. But also, it's like... I think, one, he refuses to believe that because it's way too simple. But two, it's just like how similar each guy is. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're exactly like him. And then even when he shoots him, and he blows off his fingers... Like, both doubles have blown off fingers, him going into the door, him coming out. Because I think Scarlett Johansson says that. It's like, yeah, I'm not really sure how you do it, because, like, look at this, you're still, like, scarred up. It's like, it's pretty crazy. And then it turns out, it is his twin, and he's been chopping off. They've been making each other exactly the same.
I would be like, screw that, mate. I'm going.
Yeah, screw that. Yeah,
I'm doing something else. I like my fingers.
But they basically lived each other's lives like constantly because they said they both took it in turns being Fallon and and being Borden.
I quite like the last shot. It's quite haunting when a fire is burning down the basement of Angier's theatre, and Borden sees all the water tanks, and we pan to the nearest one, and you see like the dead body of Angier, and then you realise, oh shit, there are dead bodies in all of them. It's like, fuck.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
My favourite shot is at the climax of the film, and you see it at the start as well, when Borden finds his way backstage when Angiers is about to do the transported man, and Borden sees like a blind stagehand, and he's mainly in shadow, and when the lightning goes off, you see the whites of his eyes in the flashes of the lightning, and it was kind of a nice spooky touch there. Have you got a favourite shot then?
Yeah, no, I mean, there are some really good shots. That's a good shot.
I mean, there's not too much to pick out from the directing. That's what I mean, like, from this film. You'd expect a lot, but it's not much, to be honest.
Yeah, you know, as I said, you know, when he sees the hats, that was good. When he goes to Tesla's, I like those, you know, and the lights. The teleportation scene, when that's discussed, you know, in retrospect, like what happened, and, you know, he sees two hymns and then shoots the other hymn. That was pretty crazy. And, you know, Angier's death and, you know, the place burning down, that was cool. I think my favourite sequence, rather than a shot, and again, it's not so much... it is directed really good, but it is more the script. It's more the scene, you know, rather than any particular one shot.
Yeah.
What was it? Angier's does his transporting man, and it's sabotaged by Borden. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Where he falls down the trap door and just, like, basically breaks his leg because there's nothing there.
Oh, yeah.
And Borden comes out of the other end, like, he winks at him, just like, yep. He comes out the other end, and then he's got his double hanging from, like... the rafters, and he's like, "You need to come see my show across the street." Yeah. I thought that was the biggest middle finger.
Yeah. Have you got a favourite trick in this film?
Where he cuffs the guard. How the fuck did he do that?
Oh yeah, that's mine as well. Yeah, he's like playing with a red bouncy ball, and then he seemingly drops it, and you're like, oh, he's fucked it up. But then he chains up the guard. That was quite satisfying.
That was amazing, especially because he was taking the piss. It's like, you can't get out of these. These aren't trick cuffs or whatever. Like, you know, dude, come on. I think I'm an amateur.
What's your score for directing then?
I do see your point. There aren't like many scenes where you're like, oh my god, you know. I think it's directed really finely. I'll give it like an 8.4.
As you said, yeah, it's directed really well, but I struggled to write a lot of notes, to be honest. I think my favourite bit of the directing really is just like hiding the fact that Fallon is a twin of Christian Bale's character Borden, but not like making it obvious. I think there's a very fine line they went there with that, certainly the first time you watch it. So I really like that stuff. But yeah, there's not too much flair with it. I think if he had an IMAX camera... I think if he had an IMAX camera, he wouldn't make this film. There's just no way he makes this film if he had an IMAX camera with him, because it's just not that type of movie, I don't think. So I'll go like 8.1. Screenplay then... I really don't like this screenplay.
Really?
I tell you why. Because it makes you feel stupid the second time you watch it. Because you're like, how the hell did I not see this coming? Because they literally tell you so many times that Borden is a twin. Yes. Did you find that?
Yeah, because this is the second time I've watched it. So yeah, on a rewatch, it's like, yeah, dude, come on. I actually got a kind of perverse joy at spotting the clues, but they are pretty obvious clues. They're like blatantly hammering you over the head.
There's so many of them as well.
There are so many clues. Yeah, I didn't get it on the first watch, and then it's like a big reveal. I'm kind of cool with that, because it kind of reminds me of like one of my favourite twists in movie history is Fight Club, and they hammer that in your head constantly, and you get a sort of joy rewatching it. There's a rewatchability because you're like, how the fuck did I miss that? Or if you're watching it with people, you're like, how are you not getting this, man? How are you not getting this? It's just like, it's kind of nice.
Yeah, I think as twists go, I think this film is like right up there. I think, you know, with like The Sixth Sense and Usual Suspects, I think is number one for me.
So I'm not sure, because it does feel exhausting, like towards the end, and I have a feeling that's not just because, like, there is the big twist. The Borden twist is the biggest twist, but there's quite a few little twists till you get to that twist. You know, so like that's the right end twist that you kind of. But by the time you've already been there, you've gone through a few twists. It's like, he's framed him for murder, and it's actually like a duplication machine. You're like, okay, he framed him for murder, and he has been the guy that has been taunting him in prison, that he'll take care of his daughter if he gives away his secrets. It turns out he is the guy. You're like, all this time, he was the guy. You're like, what the hell? And then you have Borden's twist. So, by the time that big twist hit, I felt like, wow, I'm all twisted out. And then, that big twist hit.
I need to lie down now.
Yeah, you're like, oh, man, I feel exhausted. So I think, that's a pretty effective way of doing a twist. You do a few little twists, and then you floor people with the big twist.
So you don't see it coming,
Like, they revealed all their hands.
Even though the film has been screaming it at you throughout the whole thing. I'll rattle for you some that I quite liked. Like when Sarah, played by Rebecca Hall, is attending to Borden's wound on his fingers, and she says, I don't understand how it can be bleeding again. It's as bad as the day it happened. It's because it just happened. Yes. The twin cut off his finger with a chisel. Later, when Angiers is reading his diary, he says his mind is a divided one. His soul is restless. His wife and child tormented by his fickle and contradictory nature. Later, Fallon is buried alive, and Borden had to dig him up. And later, he says to Sarah at like a dinner, and says for his next trick, I'm going to bury myself alive every night, and then someone will come along and dig me up. Wonderful. Later on in that scene,
I kind of missed that.
He says, I had a terrible ordeal today. I thought that something very precious had been lost to me, and he's talking about himself, his own life. The script basically makes you feel very stupid the second time you watch it. You're like, how did I not see this coming?
Or what was it? I think one of the first kind of mentions of it is kind of done in a quite clever way. It's like, when that little boy guesses the bird trick, I quite like that. Well, what about his brother?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what about the other one?
About his brother? It's like, oh, you're a clever kid. Nothing gets past you.
Yeah.
So, there are a lot of... Actually, shit, this makes me think, who the hell killed Angier's wife? Which one of them did it? Because every time he talked to one of them, he said, what knot did you tie? And he's like, I don't know. So is that because he doesn't know because the other brother did it?
Yeah.
Is he literally the only brother that talks to him? He's like, literally, I don't know what the hell my brother tied.
I don't think you find that out, do you?
So I don't know which brother actually killed his wife. So that's interesting. Yeah. Anyway.
You can definitely tell that everything has been really meticulously thought out in this film, so that everything kind of makes sense.
So either he actually got kind of like perceived vengeance for his wife, or, his wife's killer shot him at the end. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Interesting film.
I love how the story kind of unravels in this film at the start. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Memento, because the opening scenes are basically the end of the story, or like the epilogue, and then we keep going backwards from then. Then we have Angier trying to decode Borden's diary journal and trying to meet Tesla and his experiments for his trick, and then we go to the start where Borden and Angier were friends working together. So the start of the film is just constantly going backwards before we go forwards.
Throughout the film, there are like 3 timelines going on. Do you know what I mean? As you're right there. His time with Tesla, the beginning of their rivalry, and Borden in prison. So you got these 3 timelines going at it. Yeah, I think they juggled it pretty well. Like I could sort of, navigate where the hell I was. I didn't feel too confused. So that's good.
No, it wasn't difficult at all for me.
No, it wasn't. And you think that must be really hard to write.
Not as hard as Memento, to be fair.
Well, yeah, I suppose. Memento was great. I love Memento.
But one of my favourite aspects of this script is kind of like the psychological aspect of where Angiers is coming from, where it kind of really focuses on Angier's obsession about how Borden does the transported man trick. There's a scene where he's arguing with Scarlett Johansson's character, Olivia, and Olivia's been spying on Borden, and Olivia tells Angiers, while reporting back, that he uses a double, and she's seen the disguises lying around all the time, it's fairly obvious that he's using a double. But Angiers says, all the time, Olivia, that's who he is. That's what it takes. He lives his act, don't you see? And it's really like, well, Angier, you don't see. He's so convinced that it's more complicated than it actually is. Angiers is just desperate to find out how it's done and do it better. But Cutter and Olivia literally keep telling him it's a double, but he just won't listen to the obvious explanation. It's just a really interesting mindset Angiers has, because obviously he's just wrapped up in kind of revenge as well for what happened to his wife. I kind of love that story thread, really, that it's all done through revenge and just he has to be better than Borden. He will not stop until he betters his trick of the transported man.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of those things, like when it's discovered he's that Lord whatever, and he's taking in his daughter and he's bought his secrets, and he looks up and it's him. And it's just like the smug satisfaction of Hugh Jackman of just like, I fucking got you. I beat you. And like, he even gives him his trick, and he's like, I don't give a shit now. I beat you. I thought that was brilliant.
But it comes at a massive cost, obviously. As he says, like, I don't know whether I wake up in the water or as the other guy, as the Prestige.
Well, if you think about it, like, logically, I think he says he's, when Borden is like, how the hell is he doing his trick? And he says he's done 100 shows. So that there has been at least 100 clones. That one that got revenge on him is not the original. That he's not the original by any stretch of the imagination. He's the 100th copy of a copy of a copy who just still has a grudge. I mean, that's a kind of mindfuck, really.
That's a lot of water.
Yeah, man. Where are they dumping all these Hugh Jackmans?
He's going to run out of space.
Surely there must be they must stink or whatever. People must investigate. Like, where are all these Hugh Jackman?
Later, Angiers sees Cutter in the hospital, and Cutter says, I already know how he does it, Robert. The same way he always has, the same way we do. It's just that you want something more. And when Angiers opens the note and seemingly reveals Borden's secret, it just reads Tesla. It feels like Borden is just goading him on for his obsession with the secret of the trick, when there is no secret. So it's quite an interesting moment there, which kind of Borden always has, all the Joker cards, if you know what I mean, in the story. But obviously what he's grappling with is just living his own life of a dual relationship, I love the last lines from Angiers as he's dying. The audience knows the truth. The world is simple, miserable, solid all the way through. If you could fool them, even for a second, you can make them wonder, and you can get to see something very special. You really don't know. It was the look on their faces, and then dies. It feels like performing magic is the same as movie making for Christopher Nolan. Putting still images together to make a moving image is kind of like one big magic trick for him as well. Nolan's commitment to shooting on film, creating things practically and presenting it in cinemas. There are similarities to this film in his own obsession and philosophy, that's the word, in this film at the end. I do get that a little bit later in his career. He keeps that up. He's so committed to shooting things in camera, always on film, always tries to put it in cinemas. Even when in the pandemic with Tenet, he was just so adamant. No, I want to show this on the big screen. Even in July of last year, when no one was really prepared to go.
He does try to do as much as he can practically as well. So he is more like a theatre man he's an old school filmmaker, and it kind of makes sense having it set in Victorian England, having it in the old school profession of musicians who were the first visual effects guys.
I definitely just feel like this script reflects Chris Nolan's mentality a little bit. I don't know, it might be a little bit of a stretch, but I definitely get that sense.
Yeah, no, I was, I didn't have it quoted word for word, but I would say, my favourite line is probably the last line, and it's the one you've just said. Angie's dying words, I think they're pretty cool. I think they're up there, in my opinion, with, Blade Runner, and where the replicant, says this giant speech, and it's
Tears and Rain.
Kind of reminds me of that. Yeah, it just reminds me of that.
Yeah.
It's that kind of philosophy.
Feel.
Yeah, that feel. The sort of rumination on the philosophy of life and the meaning of things. And then, death. And it's quite poignant.
My favourite line is fairly simple. Are you watching closely?
That was cool.
Which is mine, really. I think it just sums up the film.
Yeah.
To be honest, you got to be watching closely to figure out all the tricks the script throws at you. So, score, Boaz, for script, what are you going for?
Go like 9.3.
Yeah, I think that's a good score, really. Can't argue with that. Yeah, it's so intricate. It's certainly early part of Chris Nolan's career. I mean, he writes everything he does, but...
Isn't it him or his brother that they tend to write a lot? His brother, right? Yeah.
Yeah, his brother co-wrote it, yeah. Jonathan. He kind of went on and did the Westworld TV show. But yeah, I just love it in films where the first experience is... when you watch it to the second, it's so different. I love it.
Yeah.
It's satisfying the second time, but it just makes you feel stupid. But it's like, how did I not see this? So I'll go like 9.4, I think. Right, acting. I think the acting from Hugh Jackman is amazing throughout this film, especially when his wife dies. He's so much in like the emotional moment for his wife and not distracted by any of the other characters, like on stage and the audience. Plus, the next scene, he's even better when he's like trying to drown himself in the sink kind of thing. And then when he comes up, he has this uncontrollable like crying thing with his breathing, which you rarely see an actor do because it's just so ugly, you know. But it's very quick, but like really impressive, that moment. I really liked Christian Bale's subtle performance where he's performing like the bullet catch trick and the realization moment that the volunteer Fallon chooses to fire the gun is Angier, and Bale's face has this incredible like subtle change of, oh shit, I'm in trouble here. And then you see the reverse of that later when like Borden messes up Angier's trick.
Oh yeah.
The bird trick. But the scene is cut a lot quicker, which is a shame, and you don't get to see Hugh Jackman's face change from his stage face to the, oh shit, I'm in trouble face. You just get the, oh shit, I'm in trouble face. You know, there's no change, which is a shame, but the Christian Bale one is definitely better.
He cut that lady's poor fingers off with that thing. That's never addressed. I mean, Jesus Christ, Borden, you know. What did she do?
No.
It's kind of a miracle she doesn't want revenge, you know.
Shouldn't have volunteered. Just unlucky.
Unlucky woman.
Subplot.
Yeah. It would be so funny, actually, if when he shoots Borden at the end, the girl is behind him. It's like, you took my fingers. She shoots him. Full circle. Yeah, revenge.
Shoots him in the back. It's like, I've lost fingers too. Don't shoot. I love Michael Caine's performance in this film. Especially the final scene he has with Angier, or at this point, Lord Cordlow. You know, the pain and disgust he shows towards Angier's is so genuine, feels so genuine. And Michael Caine is definitely like the heart of this film, definitely.
You could feel the disgust. Like, you know, he treats him like a son all the time. And then he is just like, you could feel the twist of just like, oh my God, what the hell have you done?
Yeah.
And that was good.
You definitely get this extra humanity in any film that Michael Caine is in, especially in his later career, and especially in all of Nolan's films. You know, you just get this great emotional, centered, extra human feel to his films. Because I think it's such a great trick. Because I guess there is one criticism that you can have with Chris Nolan's stuff is that, character-wise, then they're not the best of characters, and you don't get the emotion sometimes through the scripts. But when you cast someone like Michael Caine, you definitely can get that comes through with his performance and helps the other characters. And you know, this is certainly a prime example of that. Favorite performance for me is Hugh Jackman. What about you?
Yeah, I think I'll agree. I think I'll say Hugh Jackman.
Acting score? I'm
kind of teetering on an 8.9 to maybe a 9. I'm not sure.
Okay, you do like an 8.9.
I do like 8.9s. I'll give it an 8.9.
Yeah, I think they're all really impressive. I don't think the female characters get much to do, unfortunately. There's more of a script thing. Yeah, I'm not We haven't really talked about Scarlett Johansson much. I think her English accent isn't great. It's not amazing.
Yeah, her character is not that great. I was actually surprised because, I said I'd watched this film before, and watching it again, I was like, holy shit, this girl is played by Scarlett Johansson? It was like, I couldn't remember that at all. And even after the film, I don't think she's made, too much of an impression on me. I like the performance from the woman that did his wife, but I just don't think she had a lot to do. Yeah.
Rebecca
I think she
Hall,
did a good job. And, there is definite distress. I like that whenever it's like the brothers switch and she's like, she senses things are off and she's like, what the fuck is going on? Why are you acting so differently? I like that. I mean, she doesn't swear. That's me. I'm paraphrasing, because I would be a terrible wife. I would swear all the time. And she commits suicide and that's quite sad. Beyond that, she doesn't really have a hell of a lot to do and there aren't many scenes with her. So the female characters aren't really given enough scenes and enough dialogue.
Unfortunately not. Yeah, so score for acting for me, I'll go 8.5, I think. All right, let's add up the scores then for The Prestige. The Prestige gets 52.5, which is a rather good score. Yes, it might brush up onto the top 10. Find out on Tuesday to see where it lands. But yeah, The Prestige wins this week over Eddie the Eagle fairly comfortably, which only got 47.4, but still go watch that film. It's still really good.
Yeah, it's still a cool film.
And, if you're not British, great example of just to understand British humor. Yeah. So that's it for this week. Next week, as Candyman hits cinemas.
Don't say it another 4 times or we're all going to die.
What? Say what?
Oh,
Candyman?
dude, cut it out.
What? What comes out next week? Candyman?
My God, man.
Is that right?
Don't say Candyman. Oh, shit. I've said it. Don't say it again.
One last reminder. Candyman comes out... Oh, fuck. Yeah. Comes out next week. And Boaz is dead. Oh, what a relief. Let's get some other guy in.
You could get Candyman to replace me. He's cool and black. So.
Fuck no. So we'll be doing supernatural horror films. So a nice big open subject, so we can go old school or new school.
Yeah, I'm just going to try and think of the most batshit insane supernatural horror film I've ever watched.
As ever, Boaz, you've been rather good.
See ya.
Bye. That's it for this week's pod. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to find out more about the podcast or suggest future topics for us to discuss related to upcoming releases, let us know on Instagram at Film vs. Film Podcast and on Twitter at FVF_podcast. Remember, please subscribe. Pod signing off.